Welcome to this video about the IP Series Studio Expansion Module. This is kind of a uncommon piece of hardware that NewTek has, but it does have its fit for certain kinds of clients. So this video will hopefully help describe a little bit more of when this will be the right solution for somebody. So if you're not familiar with this unit, here's a picture of what the main unit looks like in the back of the unit. This is a 2-rack unit solution. On the back of the device here, you'll find 4 3G SDI outputs on the back, along with Genlock, Tally. There's some analog audio. We got dual power supplies. This unit does have dual power supplies as standard. And then on the other side, we have all the computer ports. Now, one thing with this unit is you'll notice there are graphics card outputs on these expansion slots, but then there's also graphics card outputs over on the motherboard. You need to use these graphic card outputs. There's a DVI, an HDMI, and a display port. Any one of those, or you could use 2 if you wanted to, is going to be used for the main display. Do not use these ports over on the motherboard. Those are not used for the system. And then the system also does have 2 1 gig Ethernet ports. There's one over by the USB ports here, and a second one that's over by the SDI port. So you can use either one or both if you'd like to. And then beyond that, there's just USB connectors for keyboard, mouse, hooking up storage, stuff like that. Now, probably the big question when it comes to the IP Series Studio Expansion Module is, what exactly does this do that an output module doesn't do, an I/O module, or compared to the IP Series system itself? So let's kind of show this in that comparison here. So if we look at an IP Series main unit itself, this has the most powerful output capability of any of our systems. Now, this does have additional output capability beyond what I'm going to talk about here, because you can output like DDRs and buffers, and there's the NDI matrix router, but those are all basically sources that get outputted. From the main 4 outputs on the back of the IP Series, these are all capabilities that you could use on those outputs. So it has the highest amount of layering capability, supporting up to 4 layers and 4 keyers per ME, along with reentry. So really, it's not even limited to just that. There's the comps capability, virtual sets, the 3D DVE positioning controls, chroma keying. You can do transitions on one of these outputs for secondary switching, cross and down convert, and the ability to record these outputs. So the IP Series gives you the most capability. On the other end, we have the Connect NC1IO unit. Now, this is, of course, a very popular unit for getting video into a solution, but it can also output as well. But you'll notice on the output side, it's not nearly as powerful. It just is going to take an NDI source and output it exactly as it is. There's no layering or additional effects that can be applied on it beyond the ability to do cross and down convert. And you might say, well, hold, this box also does recording. Why isn't recording listed there? Well, the NC1IO can record inputs, but it cannot record outputs. So just keep that in mind, is that from an output standpoint, recording is not available on this unit. So the Studio Series expansion module fits right in between these two, offering 4 outputs with effects and additional capabilities on them. So this includes stuff like an overlay on every single output, 3D DVE positioning controls, chroma keying, again, cross and down convert, and the recording of outputs. So it is not as powerful as an IP Series system itself, but it's certainly much more powerful than what a Connect NC1IO unit can do by itself as well. So for that client who needs additional layering capabilities, this can make a great solution to allow, to give you that kind of functionality. Now, just to kind of show you what the UI of the system looks like, this is what the main interface appears. It's our standard quad style UI. And so you have 4 mixes, mix 1, 2, 3, 4. Each can be completely independently configured, but I've just set up the same video background in each. Just a few things when you first set this up. There is the video standard you're working in. If you can feed time code in, and here's all your Genlock settings. So all that is found in the gear in the upper right corner. And then once you've got the system configured, each window has a little gear next to its name. So if I go to mix 1 and click the gear, for example, in here, you'll get your setup for this channel. And so in channel 1, I can name it. I can choose my output format for the SDI, or this will also output again as NDI as well, so the NDI will follow along. So you can choose that. You can choose what the source coming in is, and this could be anything on your network, along with other IP sources or any media files you might want to feed in here. There's the ability to offset the delay on that if necessary. Paths for setting up recording and image grab if you want to use that functionality. And then at the bottom here, you'll find all the 3D positioning controls in here. And this is just like you'd find in the TriCaster. So I can, set parameters on the background channel if I wanted to resize it, position it, rotate it. On the audio side, you've got your audio in capabilities. Now, one nice thing here is that you do not have to bring audio from the same place the video comes from. So while that is, of course, going to be the default, you can choose any other source. So I can have video come from one location where an NDI audio source come from yet a different location. And then I've got adjustments for those levels coming in. On the outside, though, we do give you some additional capability here, including a 7-band EQ, compressor limiter, and matrix routing of those channels. So this could be very valuable in some cases. Now, one thing that will be a little different on Mix 1 and 2 compared to Mix 3 and 4 in this is that the analog outputs, audio outputs in the back of the unit, there's two sets, two stereo pair of audio coming out. So Mix 1 has one stereo pair and Mix 2 has the other stereo pair of analog, and that's going to be just channels 1 and 2. Now these outputs can, on the SDI side, support up to 8, so you can see there's still more available, but Mix 3 and 4 are only going to have embedded SDI digital audio output, so just keep that in mind. And then on the color side, we give you the standard kind of color correction capabilities along with advanced color correction capabilities that you found in our systems. All right, so once you get the background set, and in my case, I just have the same set in each, there's a record button if you want to start recording these. And then over on the side here are some other capabilities. There is the ability to go full screen with any input if you wanted to. There is a grab button in here, and there's also the ability to put on-screen graticules like VU meters and 4x3 safe and center cross and title safe and stuff. But right next to where it says overlay here, this is where you can set up the second channel of video that's going to get overlaid on the first. So the overlay button will turn this on or off, and when you do click this button, you get like a kind of like a 1-second fade in or fade out depending upon which way it's going. And the gear will allow you to configure that input. And in here you'll find the ability to choose where you want the input to come from. Now this could be any NDI source, or it can be an IP or a file, be it a still image or a video file that could be overlaid on top. Now, if you're feeding a video file, there's a loop option so that as the file plays, it'll just loop over and over again if you wanted to. And there's also the ability to bring the audio in from whatever that source is. Now, this could be over the NDI channel, or if it was a file, it would be whatever audio comes in from that file. However, unlike the background, where you can choose video and audio from two different locations and combine them together, the overlay is always going to use the video and the audio from the same source coming in together on here. So just realize that you can't choose an alternate audio source in this case. If you do have that on, you'll then have audio adjustment levels here, and there's the same positioning controls that you'll find in here to adjust the overlay. And the overlay also then offers a live mat functionality, just like you'd find in the TriCaster. So we can also do green screen keying with the solution as well, with the same kind of controls that you would find in the TriCaster and edging controls in here as well. Lastly, at the bottom of the interface, there are some controls in here. We have the ability to choose what audio we'd like to hear out of the sound card, so you can kind of listen to that audio. There's adjustments down here. And on the other corner, there are controls for the interface. Now, I've only got one monitor connected, but as you can see, you could have up to 2. And if you wanted to, you could have scopes on one and other displays on the other, or view any source kind of full screen here if you wanted to. And there's also the recording function, and I have the ability to record all the channels simultaneously, or I can independently start and stop recording on these channels as well. So that kind of gives you an overview of what the product does. Now, one last thing I just want to show very quickly is that when it comes to overlaying graphics in here, one thing that might come up from time to time is, well, how can I maybe trigger those graphics in? There is no macro system found in the NC1 I'm sorry, not NC1, the VMC out module here. But one thing you can do is that if you're using a system that does have NDI command support, like an NVG1 or New Blue Effects or CharacterWorks, I can have those same sources connected on the TriCaster end and send the commands from the IP series system in. And of course, since I would also be monitoring those same NDI channels as my overlays in the Studio Expansion module here, I'd be able to see that. So in a way, it kind of gives me the ability to control it. It's just not from the expansion module itself. I'm just doing it from the IP series side. So just as a quick example, I've set up 4 different titles, each in a different language, to kind of show a workflow where, maybe I'm going to take the same video feed and overlay a different language on it. And these titles are all built in New Blue Effects, is what I'm using for my example. And I've got each one of those set up as a different overlay channel in here. And I'm going to fire this macro off on the IP series system side, but you'll see the expansion module here, the one that's actually kind of really receiving the effect of what's going on in there. So I just click the button, and you can see there are my 4 titles that have all appeared on the screen, all with different languages in there, and to kind of give you the idea of doing multiple languages or multiple channels of branding in there, or maybe I'm just using it to get multiple video resolutions out, whatever combination I'm looking for in there. But just want to show that that's kind of a way that you can use NDI commands being delivered from the IP series side to kind of give you those kind of workflows on the Studio Expansion side. So I hope you found this video helpful, and thank you.